Anyway, did you want to talk about the big showdown, the big heart-rendering, English-rendering showdown discussion between Edge and Christian Cage?
Well, I think we have to talk about it. I'll just say one thing and then let you say everything. I think if you looked at our audience, and it's a pretty big audience, maybe 95% of the audience could have booked an Adam Copeland Christian Cage feud better than whatever we've seen play out on AEW TV. Which, again, simplicity is your friend, wrestling bookers and sons of billionaires.
He
Simplicity
can't
is your friend.
he can't be simple because the medicine doesn't slow the brain down that far for him to be simple and tell a story that everyone would understand and want to hear.
Yeah.
It's bouncing off of the insides of his brain like a fucking bullet ricocheting off the inside of a grain silo. So Christian Cage comes to the ring with 5 security guards who are obviously outlaw wrestlers because you can tell them a mile away. And one guy had on high waters that looked like he was wearing fucking Lord Littlebrook's pants. And he invited, Christian did, Edge into the ring to speak to him. He said, if you don't mind making your presence felt. And they're listening, or they're trying to put a little logic and realism in this because he called him, he didn't come out. And Christian gets flustered and calls him out again, calls for his truck, play his music, nothing. So at least it wasn't set up, but the problem was that Christian hadn't thought of a lot of real entertaining shit to keep him busy while we were waiting for him to come out. But nevertheless, then they play the music and out comes Biker Edge. He's wearing a fucking knit cap and goddamn leather vest and a fucking heavy metal t-shirt of some description and blue jeans. He looks like he just came from a Hell's Angels rally. Was this guy not in the WWE last year wearing a long sequined robe? Looking like a star instead of a fucking biker?
Maybe he moved to the mean part of Toronto.
No, he moved to the bad side of Asheville. Actually, I guess he probably would find some bikers over there at the mean side of Asheville. Because the polo ponies don't roam free. They're on the menu at the corner diner. But anyway, so then Christian hides behind the security when Edge gets in the ring. And then he tells them, wait a minute, I want to talk to you. Security, leave. And they leave the ring. And Edge does not in any way advance on Christian. Christian backs up in the corner with nothing in between him but air and opportunity. And he says, we're not going to make it to the match in Montreal on December 6th, which is this coming week, or this week as we're in it, for our match that we're going to have because I'm sorry. And the crowd immediately starts chanting bullshit. And then Christian says,
well, biker Adam Copeland seemed to kind of believe it.
Well, you know, he was being contemplative, Adam Copeland. Contemplative Copeland.
The biker.
Yes. Contemplative Copeland used to be on the evangelistic circuit with Armageddon T. Thunderbird, but nevertheless.
It's amazing what Gum Alley does to a man.
Oh, it was a revelation. So Christian says that Edge took out Dino and he took out Nick. So Christian, he went for a drive and he reflected and soul searched. How did I become this person? Who am I? Let me clarify this. He told old road stories about their younger days together and how they used to take his mother's car places and do this and that and the other thing. And we were the greatest tag team ever. And Christian's father was like Edge's father, so they're brothers. And Christian's, I love you, man. This was not only extremely long, but nobody was buying it except Edge looked like he was actually thinking about it, trying to milk the suspense. It was long, wasn't it, Brian?
It certainly was, and it's important to note that although a lot of people love Christian's performance in these things, this is 2 weeks in a row with a long, never-ending, not good segment.
Yes.
that just never ends.
And I've said he's a Bond villain. He's been my favorite fucking heel on the program, and he's a verbal wordsmith. But no, this and so Edge thinks about it. He's conflicted. And then after all this big apology and all his sob story and going back to when they were kids at their mommy's knee or whatever the fuck, before Edge even thinks about it and answers, Christian tries to hit him with the title belt. And as he comes to swing, Edge just turns around and knees Christian in the nuts and says, "Nice try, dumbass. Next week, I'm going to win that belt. And by the way, here's something else. Go fuck yourself." And that was not muted at all. But then 3 seconds later, there was a long 3 or 4 second audio mute. So you can tell that even the fucking guy, he's got one job. There's a 7-second delay, and you got your finger on the fucking button. You got one job, but he was so bored and zoned out by all this caca and fake drama that had gone on before that by the time he heard fuck, it had already gone out to America. And then he bleeped whatever the fuck else was said. And that was that. What'd you think, Brian?
Not everyone could pull off go fuck yourself. I grew up in the Northeast. I'd like to think I could pull it off. Adam Copeland, not so much. You know, it reminded me the way you broke it down. Christian just turning on him with the belt. I mean, why do all of this to do that? It's so dumb. It's like when Callis turned on Jericho because Jericho didn't turn on him.
Yes.
It's just overthought.
But get the answer first. Let him say no first before you try to swing at him from behind. It may have worked.
There are just ideas, it seems like, thrown against the wall and they go out of order and it doesn't matter. They just do it this way. I mean, we could talk more about this angle. What do you think about the fact they're doing the match next week or this coming week on Dynamite? Not on the pay-per-view, but on Dynamite.
Well, because you got to get this young kid Copeland over. Put him on TV where people will see him and then put him in a pay-per-view match when they know who he is. Of course it's insane. They signed Edge and the ratings went down. That's not a reflection of Edge. That's a reflection of Tony going over the edge. Nothing helps. Again, that's the thing. Give this away. It's 25 years in the making. We have, since Edge versus Christian has not happened since their tryout match in Toronto where they got signed to a developmental deal in 1997. So he's putting it on fucking TV next week, 3 weeks in front of a pay-per-view.
Unless you thought that the Christian Darby stuff was so important that it needed to continue, and by the way, it seems like that's over now, then there's no way this whole thing couldn't have been done better. And I meant it before, and I said it. I bet the majority of this audience, if I said, or if you said, they don't listen to me. If you said there's an Adam Copeland...
Well, apparently Daniel does.
Hey, Daniel, go fuck yourself.
He hates you from hell's heart.
Go fuck yourself, Daniel. But if you said book Adam Copeland, book Edge versus Christian, the big feud finally, it wouldn't have been this. It's making me want to see them wrestle each other and do stuff less. Christian's getting go-away heat pretty quick because these segments are all going long. And then he always has now the fake, like, oh my God, what? Then in the middle of the thing, he doesn't know what's going on. He loses control. These are not good segments.
And when he was talking about himself and he had the dinosaur there as a backup, as a bodyguard and a flunky, that was great. But once we brought Nick Plain into the thing and there's more attention on these two and they're not good. And he's not good talking more about them in this convoluted saga between him and his best friend Adam that could have, as you said, easily been told in a better and more realistic way.
Yeah. Instead, it seems like two best friends performing with each other. That's the issue. They keep showing all these photos of them in the past. It still seems like two guys playing characters playing with each other.
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you say this and I'll say that?
And then I'll say, go fuck yourself. Tony, you can get that, right? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we'll tell the audio guy so he can bleep it. Go ahead and say it.
Didn't they get in trouble when Moxley literally said, go fuck yourself the first time on the air to a fan, and then Jericho tried to run with GFY the same week?
Yeah.
But Moxley had just said it, so you couldn't go with GFY because Moxley literally said, go fuck yourself.
And so I wonder if he had to pay for that trademark application that he had up for a week on GFY.
Didn't they just bleep MJF? What did they bleep MJF saying to Joe?
Well,
blow me? Or what did he say?
Blow me got bleeped. But here's the thing. There was a talk about months ago about the language, and they started cracking down on bleeping things, or we say bleep because that's what it used to be, but an audio mute where the sound just goes out. And it seemed like they got in line a little bit, and now not only are they having to mute everybody again, but they're missing the mutes. Those two mutes.
Maybe this is a good time to remind you. I just went and looked it up. Remember, we talked about in July that AEW was banning different things and they were going to have rules.
Yeah. How many injuries ago was that? How many death-defying freak accidents was that ago?
Yeah, all of these things were banned without approval. Spots and bumps on the ring apron outside, table, ladder, and chair spots in and out of the ring, elevated spots outside of the barricade. I'm trying to see anything about blood.
Well, but we've said many times you can drink the blood, but you can't throw the blood.
Yeah, every single thing here is something that we've seen on TV since July when we first saw this.
Well, that's because it was bullshit, because people were upset that everybody was getting hurt, so they put something out like they were going to do something about it, but there's nobody controlling any of these fucking guys, and we've heard through the little grapevines that the producers are often frustrated, the ones with veteran experience, not the friends of the modern generation. And nobody's going to contain them from doing anything. And nobody's going to discipline them after they do anything, except for the disciplinary committee, which is headed up by a guy who's had 2 major injuries in the last year and was once forced to retire from wrestling for several years because of fucking head damage caused by concussions. He's in charge of the disciplinary committee if they get out of hand giving each other concussions and shit.